Hey gang, I'm going to watch What If Society Really Treated Women Like Men by a John Griffin. And it's going to be just as stupid as you think it is. But I saw Public rip into this guy, so I'm going to rip into this guy. And if you don't know who Public is, I like Public. I watch his lives. I like the way he talks to men. And these are definitely the men that need the talking to. But there seems to be a rise of men who feel like they need to tell women how life works. And this guy is an old white guy who's definitely proud of being single. So, like I said, it's going to be just as stupid as you think it is.
Well, unfortunately, that video was not as well received as I had hoped. And I think the reason why is there is a general lack of, I don't know, maybe empathy is the right word.
A lack of empathy towards men. Can you imagine? Oh, and the reason why I'm not showing the video is because things can get dicey with copyright with showing the video. Some people are braver than I am. Public shows the video. I'm not going to do that.
But definitely a lack of understanding for the whole experience. So to compensate for that, today, I have an idea.
Sure.
What if the roles were reversed? What if
How many
women
times have you heard that?
actually got what they wanted? What if they actually were treated by society just like men?
Sure.
What would that look like? How would that feel? So today we're going to do a little thought experiment. We're going to see what that might be like. Let's talk about it.
Okay. Lives in a beautiful place. If he lives here. He's walking his dogs. Where is
So
this?
let's imagine a world where suddenly women find themselves being just as disposable as men. And that means that they need to sign up for the draft and to do the selective service registration.
Okay, the cinematography is cinematographying. This guy not only hates women in his spare time, but also has apparently a drone that he really knows how to capture sights with. It's a shame that all of his talents go to waste on hating women. Men who get drafted are between 18 and 25, and we haven't had a draft since the 30s. Meanwhile, there is constantly legislation generated to control people's access to reproductive health care. So, you will not have to worry about going to war. Meanwhile, women in Texas have to worry about the myriad of things that come with an unwanted pregnancy, be it non-consensual sex or consensual sex, not meaning that they consented to having a baby. So the draft is the most tiredest, most irrelevant argument that you could possibly use. Also, men who get drafted, most men between 18 and 25, if there is a draft, will not get drafted. So the chances that you will be affected by a draft is not even on the scale of the chances that a woman will be affected or somebody who can give birth can be affected by reproductive health care restriction laws.
Which is just sort of the first indication that you're not in full control of your life and that you have a greater service.
Also, you're not in full
provide
control
to
of your life
the
under
nation or
capitalism just in
society.
general.
The second thing is, if you do go into the military, you're not going to get the option to opt out of combat. You're going to lose that ability. You'll have to be directed to combat as needed. The third thing you'll recognize is that
Women also go to combat.
in jobs where there are very high risks,
I don't know if they can opt out though.
you're going to experience a very high rate of mortality.
Ooh, mortality
Now,
rate.
imagine a world where 5,000 women are dying on the job every single year.
So here's something that isn't a job that kills a lot of women a year. And I'm not going to make you guess. I'm just going to tell you. Giving birth. Giving birth kills more women than high-risk jobs kill men. Every year. So that's also not an argument.
How would our society respond to that? How would
Shitty.
other women respond to that? I am just guessing that we would probably see investigations into it. There'd be new
Are you
public
sure?
policy. There would
Are
be
you
safety
sure?
regulations enacted.
So this video is 2 months old. It's 2 months, yeah, after the election. But before all of the before Elon Musk got in and all these programs and whatnot got dismantled. But even then, if 5,000 men are dying every year, that means that if there weren't already regulations, it would be more. And also, we know that our society and legal system doesn't care about women dying because the United States has the highest, uh, I forgot the word, I'm going to say pregnancy mortality rate or birth labor mortality rate. Plenty of people die here giving birth. And the fact that there's nothing done about that means that there's be the same fucking nothing done about this.
Be an entire, series of mountains moved.
Labor laws, am I right?
That women were not
pun intended
unnecessarily put at risk, and that their safety was prioritized above all other things. Well, today, men lose their jobs at a very high rate in jobs that have fairly poor safety records, and very little is done to prevent those deaths from happening.
And who did that? Who did that? Sounds like your problem was with men, because men are the ones who make up all this shit. Men are the ones who make the laws and shit. Like, you might want to go talk to men. Just saying.
The reason is that profits are...
There are more male politicians, is what I'm saying. So men are the ones who are the most likely to make the laws.
Are disposable. People don't come out complaining. These
yes,
big companies, they will...
You're complaining right now.
They'll pay out death benefits, and
not all the time.
They'll protect themselves in court. It's much better to defend yourself in court than it is to have to invest a lot of money into creating a safer work environment for men. But I think that women might actually get something done. I think that they complain enough and they would cry about it, and we'd probably get 60 Minutes involved, and we would see a change to that.
It's weird how... I don't know. I don't think this video is about bashing women for complaining, because you just said if it was women, they would get shit done. So women get shit done. You know what? I forgot who said this, but there's an old saying: if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. And he literally just said that.
As long as we're talking about mortality, we might as well talk about death as a whole. Currently, men die about 5 or 6 years before most women do. Imagine if that was flipped around on its head. If women were dying 5 or 6 years before men, oh my gosh, can you imagine what would happen in our society? There would be investigations into...
It's weird he didn't say why. He just said men die. But he didn't say why. A very risky business there, Mr. Griffin. Very, very telling of you to leave out why men die.
The whole medical industry to find out what they were doing. Obviously, there's some kind of discrimination occurring here. These poor women are not receiving the care that they need. The drug companies are obviously complicit in this as well. There's a conspiracy at foot. There's no question about it. It's a patriarchy thing, obviously. It's got to be men's fault. These poor women are just dying 5 or 6 years younger.
I will also point out, he didn't give any context to that, but I will point out that women are more likely to take care of themselves than men. Because men teach other men that they need to just grunt through the pain. Versus if something's wrong with a woman, women encourage other women to go get that checked out. Just saying.
How on earth could this possibly be? There would be such outrage in our society if that were the case. But with men dying 5 or 6 years earlier, no one really seems to care. They think, well, these guys take a lot of risks. They work those heavy jobs. Men don't
seem to care.
They die in the military. There's all kinds of reasons why men die early, but there's no reason for women to die early.
Yeah, fuck all those women who die from childbirth. Am I right?
Yeah, let's talk about the legal system. This is one of my favorites.
Mine too.
Imagine if women were being sentenced the same way that men are. Or worse yet, imagine that women's sentences were 60% longer than men's sentences for committing the same crime. Imagine how that would fly at the National Organization of Women. Oh my God, they would be.
Why is that though? You're just saying that that's a thing that happens, but you're not saying why. Very suspicious of you, Mr. Griffin. Very suspicious of you.
Losing their minds. Can you imagine the newspaper?
Are you sure? Because you didn't say why.
Specials dedicated to this, the corruption involved in the legal system that would take two people who commit exactly this.
Oh, and by the way, I will point out again that this is a white male talking about the prison system.
Same crime, and now these women are.
There's a lot of statistics to break down about prison. That's why it's the prison system, not the justice system.
Just because they're women. Holy shit. Holy shit. Can you imagine? Oh my God. Somebody call 60 Minutes on this one. Let's get
what's up with this dude in 60 Minutes?
On this one.
Oh, he's old.
You can imagine those ladies on The View. They would be just about to lose their minds on this. And then, making matters worse, insult.
You know something else that I noticed about men who hate women in general? Not just Mr. Griffin here, but just overall. Men hate women being in a community. He's been complaining so much about how women get notoriety and women talk about each other and women try to help each other.
To injury, these poor women, if they go into family court or civil court, and just because their marriage didn't work out, even though they dedicated their entire lives to this marriage, financially, physically, emotionally, psychologically, and for whatever reason they just can't make their partner happy, the judge is going to determine that their partner should get custody of the children 80% of the time. And if you guys have been married for at least 10 years, there's a very good chance that you're going to have to pay him alimony for the rest of his life, even though he's.
So, it's my understanding that women usually win custody battles because men usually don't fight for custody that hard. And when men do fight for custody that hard, they win the custody battle. I don't know what statistics would have to be looked at for that, but there is a reason why that can be one of the reasons. And another reason that I have been told about is that it is the judges, who are, like most judges are men, that will assign the caregiving role to women. And that is also another issue that you are having with men, not women. It is sexism, the patriarchy, all those things here that assign women as the caregivers. Therefore, the children go with the woman, unless you fight for custody that hard. Like, that's another thing you need to talk to men about.
Moved in with his girlfriend, yeah, you're still gonna have to pay.
Oh wait, also alimony. Alimony is based on income, dog. If she makes more money, then she's gonna pay him alimony. If he made more money, he's gonna pay her alimony. That's just that's just math. And if you're that worried about it, get a prenuptial.
Can do about it. Oh my God. Can you imagine how that would fly? There is no way on earth in the United States of America that women would allow that to happen. Yet that happens to men
really.
All the time.
So there's no way on earth that women would allow that to happen. So men are allowing it to happen. So that means you need to talk to men, because men are the ones who are allowing it to happen. Got it.
Now, I'm laughing here a little bit because obviously this is ridiculous, but this is what's actually happening to men. Okay.
It sounds like men need community. It sounds like men need to build better community and relationships. Because women, they got each other's back, apparently. It's the men who are letting men fall. That's not women's problem. That's men's problem.
This is actually what's happening to men. I'm just flipping it on his head and saying
Okay,
that
girl.
there would be blood in the streets before that would happen.
Oh, wait.
You know what I mean? If they were losing custody of their children 80% of the time, you know what I mean?
Oh, he's doing
there
it.
would be.
The reason why isn't there blood in the streets now? It's because men don't fight as hard for custody. If y'all cared that much, there'd be blood in the streets now. Men need to have each other's backs. Oh. I didn't skip that far ahead. I just skipped his little rant. I mean, this whole thing is a rant.
Or going to college at a rate of about 20%, 20 points less than men. So for every 100 men to go to college, only 80 women were getting in or going to college. Now, we've seen how that works. We got Title IX from that. And that made it possible for women to go to college at a much, much higher rate. But now that we're seeing that happen to men, no one's been doing any kind of investigating into that. You know, it was found that the system was sort of stacked against women back in the old days. So that's why they got to get Title IX and all these special considerations and, you know, opportunities to go to college that didn't exist before. And they were pushed, you know, socially and educationally and given scholarships and all kinds of paths to get into school. Well, now that men are getting in at a much lower rate and their educational outcomes are much, much lower, no one's doing anything about it. So,
because they needed Title IX to help women, men don't need Title IX. If you can afford to go to college, then go. If you want to go to college, then go. How about women want to go to college and men don't? Now we're just getting into personal choices. Or like it's also a matter of cost. Like back when Title IX came out, we had a different economy. Like there's more women going to college, but there's less people going to college because they can't afford it. And
I know a lot of you guys.
Some of us are allergic to debt.
College anyway. Well, you know, you can say that, and I certainly, you know, see that there's certainly lots of ways for people to make a lot of money in this world. But I'll tell you, there's no question about it. A man with a college degree is going to go a lot further than a man without one most of the time. Now, yeah, you can start your own business. You can be an electrician, a plumber, all that stuff. But you get a college degree, and you're guaranteed a job, especially in certain fields. You're going to be a lawyer, a doctor, you're a specialist in something, an engineer, an architect. Any of those fields that have a lot of specialization in it, yeah, you're going to make a fortune in your lifetime. And it's guaranteed. And you can take that job just about anywhere and be successful with it. So, yeah, you can definitely do it the other way. You can go the blue-collar route, and I'm not knocking that in any way, shape, or form. Not in any way, shape, or form. But there's something going on here when boys are not graduating from high school at the same rate, and they're not going to college.
You can start your own business. You can do a trade that doesn't need a degree. But women going to college is still a problem. Bro. And then let's not forget the women in blue collar fields. Let's not forget the women starting their own business. Let's not forget the women plumbers, the women electricians, etc. Let's not forget the women lawyers, the women doctors. It's like, come on, man. And then all of that is still male dominated fields. Everything I listed off, everything he listed off. Still male dominated fields, mind you. Except owning a small business. I don't know the statistics on that one.
College at the same rate, and even those who do go to college are dropping out at high rates, and they're not getting degrees. This is not a good thing. It's not a good thing at all. Education.
There are a lot of reasons why somebody will drop out.
Sake, but just for being a citizen and just understanding the way the world works and just having critical thinking ability is critical. It's critical. And
school doesn't teach you critical thinking. That has nothing to do with that. That's some classes bullshit right there.
knowing that there is a majority of women by 20 percentage points that are going to have those skills and men are not is very, very, very concerning to me for our future. Just saying.
Nah, it's a classist piece of shit.
All right, let's talk about psychological stress and social isolation, because these are things that men experience at a very high rate. Now, if women were experiencing these things and seeing the same kinds of outcomes, and what I mean is a lot of suicides
Good, say the
and
word.
homelessness,
Yeah.
that would be a social revolution kind of stuff. If women were killing themselves, it made up 75 to 80% of all the suicides in America. That would be a real problem. There would be Health and Human Services and all these other organizations, these executive agencies investigating into this to find out what on earth is going on. They would have entire university, research teams trying to figure out how on earth this could be happening. Why is it our women?
Women are less likely to commit suicide because women are more likely to be in community. Women are less likely to self-isolate. Not to say it doesn't happen. It's just women are more likely to have good people in their lives because women are more human beings are social creatures regardless of gender. Women are more encouraged to be actively social. Women are more encouraged to ask for help when they need it. And it's usually by other women. Like, the problem is the lack of community with men. Maybe if y'all built community together, you wouldn't kill yourselves. Try it. Just try it and see what happens.
Are killing themselves at such a high rate, and why are they ending up homeless 80% of the time? Why is it 80% of our homeless are women? You can just imagine how that would go over.
So, as a homeless person, who started off, I wouldn't identify. I don't think at any point in my life I would have identified as a cisgender woman. But as definitely somebody who has a vagina owner myself. Some people call it yoni. I like that one more. Homelessness is based on a lot of different factors. And it can be socioeconomic things. It's a lot. Homelessness, the main perpetrator of homelessness is loss of housing, either through eviction or family members dying or whatever means have you. I'll believe that 80% of the homeless population by gender is men. And I will also say, when you're homeless, you don't give a shit about the homeless population by gender. You give a shit about getting housing. Like, and we could go down the list of things. This is where I have a lot to say, so I'm trying to pick through all the things that I can say, because while I was homeless in other states, I traveled. I talked about this years ago. I used to travel. I don't travel as much anymore. But I've talked to various different homeless people throughout various points, and gotten to know people. And a lot of people, regardless of gender, are homeless due to eviction or loss of family members or severe mental and physical health. Because disability does not pay enough to be able to make any kind of living. You can't, if you're on disability, you have to choose between paying rent and being able to do anything else. I mean, it's easy to go by gender, but like, you can break down all these other things about homelessness. Homelessness deserves way more time, attention, and nuance than some red pillar is going to give it. And it's really a disservice to humanity to try to just make homelessness look like a gender issue when it clearly isn't. Homelessness is an economic issue first, above all else, across the board. Talk to any homeless person and they will agree. You're not homeless because you're a man. You're homeless because you got evicted, because a family member died, because natural disaster. It's ridiculous to do this. It's weaponizing a vulnerable group of people for your fucking agenda, and that's disgusting. But I can't really expect anything more or less at this point.
There is no way they would let this happen. But because it's happening to men who are inherently disposable to the society, nobody gives a fuck. Okay? Nobody gives a fuck, except for other men. So now maybe it's time for us to start doing something about it. Maybe it's time for us to start raising our voices. Because men are not going to speak up for themselves. Men just don't. But maybe it's time somebody does. Because this is...
So all this complaining just boiled down to was women get things because they advocate for themselves and other women. And men don't get things because they don't advocate for themselves and other men. Damn, bro. Sounds like your problem is with men. I don't see how anybody can get through any of these videos. Cause he just said it. The problem is men. Huh? Like, okay, cool. So you understand men don't get shit because you don't advocate for yourselves and other men. Good job, bro. You did it. You cracked the code.
Unacceptable that the suicide rate for men is 4 times what it is for women, and the homeless rate for men is over 4 times what it is for women. That's just wrong.
How about no homelessness and no suicide for anybody? While you're trying to push this idea that women lack empathy. This guy is disgusting. But we got a few more minutes. Also, I'm enjoying the scenery. This guy knows how to do this camera shooting
thing. So imagine for a minute.
An old white man with a drone. He's doing it though. He knows how to work it. And editing skills. This guy took some courses.
That most, like 80 to 90% of all of the violent crime in America was pointed at women. That women were the victims of these crimes. And they were 80% of the, actually 85 to 90% of the murder victims. Imagine that. Already, we get tons and tons of information about violence against women, like it's rampant, like it's a pandemic of violence against women. It's not. Right here in the United States, the epidemic, I should say, is violence against men. And men make up the vast majority of the victims of violent crime, especially when it comes to murder. Nobody talks about that. When it happens to a man, nobody really...
Men are most of the violent crime perpetrators. It's men killing other men. It's men sending men to war. It's men robbing other men. It's babe. The reason why there's a spotlight on violence against women is because a lot of the violence against women is intimate partner violence or domestic violence, like a family member. Men are more likely to be killed by somebody that they don't know, actually, or don't know that well. Like, I was going to say coworker, but that's not necessarily true. But men aren't as likely to be killed by their partners, by their intimate partners, whereas women are. Um, it's men killing the men, babe. It's men robbing the men. It's men beating the men. It's men. Talk to men. In the United States, those demographics break down even more. You don't have to believe me. Go to the FBI website if that still exists.
Seems to care. They won't even make the news. If a woman gets raped and murdered in your town, I guarantee you it's making the evening news that night.
Cap. No, it's not. If every woman that got raped and murdered, or just raped or just murdered, was on the news, it would be a 24-hour, 7 days a week ass stream. This guy just, wow. It's like he stepped right in the answer of like the problem is men, and then just proceeded to walk over it. And then stepped in it again, addressing violent crimes, which is mostly perpetrated by men. It's like you really got to do some gymnastics to skip over the context and the rest of the information to get to the problem. Like he's describing the end result of the problem, but to fit his narrative, he is skipping over what caused the problem. I love it here.
And everyone's going to be on the lookout for whoever this perpetrator is. I mean, everyone's going to be trying to track this guy down. But
shouldn't they though? Why is that a problem?
Jogging and he gets knocked over the head and mugged and dies as a result of it, I doubt you're going to hear anything about it.
Who knocked him over the head and mugged him, John? A man.
I would imagine that will just go unnoticed. I mean, the family members will know. It'll show up in the police reports, but it's very unlikely that anyone's going to make any news out of that, unless that guy happens to be really important. If he's just some guy.
There's a mugger on the loose. They'll be on the news.
I mean, if it's the mayor or the senator or someone like that, maybe you get it, but the rest of us, we're not making the news.
Well, that's a commentary on rich people. Like when Brian Thompson got basically what he deserved, people pointed out how if they were murdered on the streets in a similar scenario, the FBI and the police and all that wouldn't be looking for them either. That's just what he just said is just based on status. Like if a female senator got mugged, that would be on the news. If a male senator got mugged, that'd be on the news because it's about status. Like the average person, period, is probably not going to be on the news if you want to put it like that.